Think of the Middle Ages, and your mind probably goes straight to a movie set. A noble lord in his castle, brave knights in shining armor, and maybe a few peasants tilling the fields. It looks like a simple two-class system of the haves and the have-nots. But if you look closer, the medieval world was a buzzing hive of hyper-specialized jobs. To keep a kingdom running, you needed more than just a crown. You needed people willing to do the jobs that would make a modern stomach turn. While some professions, like baking and carpentry, are still going strong, others have thankfully been swallowed by history. Today, we're stepping off the beaten path of kings and queens to look at the absolute worst ways to make a living in the medieval world. Welcome to Thrones and Empires. Let's start with the smell you could detect from miles away, the tanner. In an age before plastic, leather was everything. Shoes, armor, belts, even water bottles. But turning a raw animal hide into a supple boot was a nightmare. A tanner's day began with a delivery of bloody skins, hooves, and horns. After a quick wash in the local river, the real magic happened. To get the hair off, they didn't use razors. They soaked the pelts in vats of stale urine and let them literally rot until the hair loosened. Once it was sufficiently gross, the tanner would scrape the sludge off by hand. The final step involved soaking the skins in a chemical cocktail of wood bark and more urine for up to a year. Tanners were vital, but they were the ultimate social pariahs. Nobody wanted to live downwind of a tannery. If the smell didn't get you, the heights might. This was the era of the great cathedrals, massive stone giants reaching 500 feet into the sky. Without modern cranes, how did they get those car-sized stones to the top? They used treadmill workers. Picture a massive wooden hamster wheel perched hundreds of feet in the air. A man would stand inside, walking for hours to power the winch. One slip, and you'd either plummet to the ground or have your limbs mangled in the wooden gears. It was a high-stakes workout with zero safety harness. But even a fall from a cathedral might seem preferable to the life of the gong farmer. In medieval slang, gong meant human waste. Since there were no flushing toilets, people used chamber pots and emptied them into cesspits. The gong farmer's job was to dive into these pits and dig out the night soil by hand. Because the smell was so offensive, they were legally only allowed to work between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. It wasn't just disgusting, it was deadly. In 1325, a man named Richard the Raker actually drowned in his own cesspit. The only upside? The pay was excellent, about 6 pence a day, which was a full week's wage for a normal laborer. Then there was the executioner. You'd think the man in the black hood was a busy professional, but executions weren't actually that common. To pay the bills, executioners had to take on side hustles like clearing dead animal carcasses, known as a knacker, or taxing lepers. They were the ultimate outcasts, forced to live on the very edge of town because people believed their touch was cursed. Despite the grim nature of the work, they were seen as a necessary part of the atonement process, helping criminals earn a good death through a final confession. If you got sick, your options didn't get much better. Medieval doctors believed in the 4 humors and thought the best way to fix an imbalance was to bleed you. This created a demand for the leech collector. These workers would wade bare-legged into murky ponds, acting as human bait. They'd wait for parasitic worms to latch onto their skin and suck their blood, then pluck them off and sell them to physicians. After a day's work, a collector would be pale, weak from blood loss, and covered in open sores prone to nasty infections. Finally, we have the most somber job of all, the plague barrier. When the Black Death wiped out 2/3 of Europe in the 1340s, someone had to deal with the aftermath. These workers wandered through ghost towns with a bell and a cart, shouting for people to bring out your dead. In the beginning, they tried to give people proper burials, but eventually the math just didn't work. They resorted to digging massive plague pits, stacking bodies in tiers and covering them with quicklime to speed up decomposition. It was a job defined by heartbreak, as many had to toss their own friends and neighbors into the piles. It wasn't all gloom and doom, though. For the lucky few at the top, medieval life was a cycle of feasts and hunting trips. But for the workers in the trenches, the hamster wheels, and the cesspits, survival was a daily battle against the elements and the gong. Next week, we're flipping the script to look at the most glamorous, high-paying, and bizarrely easy jobs of the Middle Ages. You won't want to miss it. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you're the first to know when we drop the next episode. Thanks for watching.